Don't skip. Your soulmate secretly tested your honesty and broke down in tears when they found out. Don't skip. Listen carefully. Author's note: this is a fictional, inspirational story created for entertainment and reflection. It does not claim that a real soulmate secretly tested you, that these events happened in real life, or that it predicts your future. The story is about integrity, trust, forgiveness, and emotional growth. And listen to this. It began on a quiet morning that looked no different from any other. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the curtains, filling the room with a warm golden glow. A gentle breeze drifted through the open window carrying the scent of fresh rain and blooming flowers. Birds welcomed the sunrise with cheerful songs. The neighborhood slowly awakened. A baker unlocked the doors to a small cafe. Neighbors smiled while greeting one another. Children laughed on their way to school. Everything appeared wonderfully ordinary. Yet somewhere, someone was quietly wrestling with an important question. Not about success. Not about money. Not even about finding the perfect relationship. The question was much simpler. Can trust truly survive when life becomes difficult? Because your heart needs this right now, because every lasting relationship is built on trust that grows through everyday choices. For many months, they had watched how people treated one another. Not during celebrations. Not when everything was easy. But during ordinary moments. When no one seemed to be watching. When there was nothing to gain. They noticed something surprising. Character reveals itself quietly. In small decisions. Simple conversations. Unexpected opportunities to choose honesty. Because your heart needs this right now, because integrity is often demonstrated in the smallest moments of everyday life. That morning they prepared a warm cup of tea and sat beside the window. Instead of rushing through another busy day, they simply watched the world. A father patiently helped his daughter tie her shoes. An elderly woman watered colorful flowers outside her home. A stranger stopped to help another person pick up groceries that had fallen onto the sidewalk. None of these moments were dramatic. Yet everyone quietly whispered the same lesson. Kindness costs very little. But its value is immeasurable. Because your heart needs this right now, because ordinary kindness often leaves extraordinary memories. After breakfast they reached for an old notebook resting quietly on a nearby table. The notebook had traveled with them through many different seasons. Some pages contained dreams. Others held disappointments. Many carried lessons learned through difficult experiences. Turning each page felt like meeting different versions of themselves. The fearful version. The impatient version. The hopeful version. The growing version. They smiled gently. Every chapter had prepared them for today. Because your heart needs this right now, because every season of life teaches something valuable when we remain willing to learn. Opening to a blank page, they slowly began writing. What is honesty? The question remained on the page for several moments. Then another sentence quietly appeared. Honesty is choosing truth even when no applause follows. Another followed. Honesty is treating people with respect even when no one notices. Reading those words brought unexpected peace. Because your heart needs this right now, because real integrity comes from doing what is right regardless of recognition. Later that morning they decided to walk through the familiar park. Tall oak trees stretched toward the bright blue sky. Gentle breezes moved through the branches. The peaceful lake reflected drifting white clouds. Families gathered beneath shady trees. Children chased butterflies through blooming gardens. Everything invited stillness. Finding the familiar wooden bench overlooking the lake, they quietly sat down. Instead of searching for answers, they simply watched life unfold. Because your heart needs this right now, because slowing down often allows wisdom to become visible. Nearby, a little boy accidentally dropped several coins while buying bread from a small food cart. The vendor noticed. Instead of pretending nothing had happened, he smiled and handed every coin back. The boy looked surprised. "Thank you," he said. The vendor replied softly. "Doing the right thing is always worth it." Those simple words echoed through their heart. Integrity often appears in moments no one else remembers. Yet those moments quietly shape who we become. Because your heart needs this right now, because honesty is built through consistent daily choices. As the morning became afternoon, they continued walking beside the peaceful lake. A young artist quietly painted the surrounding landscape. Curious, they stopped to watch. The artist smiled warmly. "Beautiful paintings take patience," she explained. "You cannot rush every brushstroke." Those words reminded them that trust also takes time. It cannot be demanded. It cannot be forced. It grows through repeated acts of honesty, kindness, and reliability. Because your heart needs this right now, because trust is earned through consistency rather than promises alone. Later they wandered into a nearby flower garden. Rows of colorful roses stretched beneath the warm afternoon sun. An elderly gardener carefully removed weeds one by one. Curious, they asked, "Why not leave the small weeds?" The gardener smiled kindly. "Small problems become large ones if ignored." Those words settled deeply. The same is true in relationships. Small misunderstandings. Small disappointments. Small dishonest moments. Left unattended, they quietly grow. But honest conversations remove those weeds before they become difficult to manage. Because your heart needs this right now, because healthy relationships flourish through regular care and truthful communication. Returning to the familiar bench, they opened the notebook once again. Today's page filled quickly. Today I understand something new. Honesty isn't about proving anything to another person. It's about becoming someone I can respect when I look in the mirror. Integrity begins long before anyone notices it. Reading those words brought a quiet smile. The burden of trying to impress others suddenly felt much lighter. Because your heart needs this right now, because self-respect grows when our actions match our values. As afternoon slowly became evening, golden sunlight reflected across the peaceful lake. Families packed picnic blankets. Children waved goodbye to new friends. Birds returned to their nests. Everything gradually became quiet. Standing beside the water, they reflected on the title of this story. Don't skip. Your soulmate secretly tested your honesty and broke down in tears when they found out. They smiled gently. The real test wasn't a hidden challenge set by another person. It was the quiet moments in life that invite us to choose honesty, kindness, and integrity when no audience is watching. The real discovery wasn't about someone else's reaction. It was discovering the peace that comes from living truthfully. Because your heart needs this right now, because authentic character is one of the greatest gifts anyone can offer a relationship. That evening they returned home. The room felt peaceful. Outside, countless stars slowly appeared across the night sky. They opened the notebook one final time before bed. Across a fresh page they carefully wrote, "Tomorrow I will choose honesty even when it is difficult. Tomorrow I will listen before judging. Tomorrow I will appreciate the people around me. Tomorrow I will protect trust through patience, kindness, and respect. Tomorrow I will continue becoming the person I hope to be." Then they paused before writing one final reflection. "Today I discovered that the greatest test of character is not whether someone else believes I am honest. It is whether I continue choosing integrity when no one is watching." Relationships built on truth, compassion, humility, and respect become stronger over time, and those qualities are worth practicing every single day. They gently closed the notebook. Outside, the stars continued shining. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New conversations would begin. New opportunities would appear. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in many seasons, they no longer worried about proving themselves to anyone else. They simply wanted to become someone whose everyday actions reflected honesty, compassion, gratitude, and kindness. And listen to this. The next morning arrived wrapped in quiet peace. Golden sunlight slowly stretched across the room. A cool breeze drifted through the open window carrying the scent of fresh rain and blooming flowers. Birds greeted the sunrise with cheerful songs. Outside, neighbors exchanged friendly greetings. A baker arranged warm bread in the shop window. Children laughed as they hurried toward school. Everything looked exactly the same. Yet inside, one heart had quietly begun to change. The questions that once created fear were slowly becoming opportunities for growth. Because your heart needs this right now, because every new day gives us another chance to become the person we hope to be. Before beginning the day, they reached for the familiar notebook resting beside the window. Its worn cover reminded them of every season they had already walked through. Some pages contained dreams. Some contained disappointments. Others held lessons that had taken years to understand. They turned to yesterday's final entry and quietly read it once more. Integrity is choosing truth even when no one is watching. Those words lingered. For the first time, they realized honesty was never about proving themselves to someone else. It was about living in a way that allowed them to rest peacefully at the end of each day. Because your heart needs this right now, because peace often comes when our actions align with our values. After breakfast they decided to return to the familiar park. The old oak tree welcomed another beautiful morning. Gentle breezes danced through its branches. Sunlight shimmered across the calm lake. Families gathered beneath the shade. Children chased butterflies through colorful gardens. Everything invited reflection. They found the same wooden bench overlooking the water and quietly sat down. Instead of searching for answers, they simply watched life unfold. Because your heart needs this right now, because wisdom often grows in moments of quiet observation. Nearby, an elderly woman patiently taught her grandson how to fold paper cranes. The little boy became frustrated when one corner wouldn't line up. "I can't do it," he sighed. She smiled gently. "You don't become patient after everything becomes easy. You become patient by continuing when things feel difficult." Those words echoed inside. Honesty often requires that same quiet patience. Relationships do not become stronger through perfect conversations. They become stronger when people continue choosing truth, kindness, and understanding even after mistakes. Because your heart needs this right now, because every honest effort helps strengthen trust. As the morning slowly became afternoon, they wandered toward a small flower garden. An elderly gardener carefully trimmed fading blossoms. Curious, they asked why he spent so much time caring for flowers that would eventually bloom again anyway. The gardener smiled. "Every healthy garden needs regular attention. If I ignore the little things, the garden slowly loses its beauty." Those simple words stayed with them. Relationships work much the same way. Trust must be cared for. Respect must be protected. Gratitude must be expressed. Small acts of kindness keep relationships healthy long before major problems ever appear. Because your heart needs this right now, because healthy relationships are maintained through everyday care. Later they continued walking beside the peaceful lake. A young father and daughter sat together feeding ducks. The little girl accidentally dropped nearly all the birdseed onto the ground at once. She looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry." Her father simply smiled. "It's okay. We'll learn together." Watching them reminded them that safe relationships leave room for mistakes. People grow where grace is present, not where perfection is demanded. Because your heart needs this right now, because compassion helps people become their best selves. The afternoon breeze carried the gentle sound of music from a nearby street musician. Only a handful of people stopped to listen. Still, every song was played with care. Curious, they approached him. "Why keep playing when so few people stop?" The musician smiled warmly. "I don't play because I'm guaranteed applause. I play because music is meant to be shared." Those words settled deeply. Honesty is much the same. We do not speak truth because we know exactly how others will respond. We speak truth because sincerity matters. Because your heart needs this right now, because integrity is valuable regardless of recognition. Returning to the familiar bench beneath the oak tree, they opened the notebook once more. The blank page didn't stay empty for long. Slowly they wrote. Today I understand that honesty is not something I prove once. It is something I practice every day. Every decision. Every conversation. Every promise. Every opportunity to choose what is right. Reading those words filled them with quiet confidence. Not because life had become easier, but because their direction had become clearer. Because your heart needs this right now, because consistent choices shape lasting character. As afternoon slowly turned into evening, golden sunlight reflected across the peaceful lake. Families folded picnic blankets. Children waved goodbye to new friends. Birds returned to their nests. Everything gradually became still. Standing beside the water, they quietly reflected on the title of this story. Don't skip. Your soulmate secretly tested your honesty and broke down in tears when they found out. A gentle smile crossed their face. The real test had never been a secret plan created by another person. It was life itself. Life quietly offering daily opportunities to choose honesty instead of convenience. Kindness instead of indifference. Humility instead of pride. The greatest discovery wasn't someone else's reaction. It was realizing that living with integrity brings a peace no deception can ever provide. Because your heart needs this right now, because authentic character quietly strengthens every meaningful relationship. That evening they returned home. The room felt peaceful. Outside, countless stars slowly appeared across the night sky. They opened the notebook one final time before bed. Across a fresh page they carefully wrote, "Tomorrow I will continue choosing honesty. Tomorrow I will continue choosing patience. Tomorrow I will continue protecting trust. Tomorrow I will continue speaking with kindness. Tomorrow I will continue becoming someone whose actions match my words." They paused before writing one final reflection. Today I discovered that integrity is not built through one extraordinary moment. It is built through hundreds of ordinary choices made with sincerity, compassion, humility, and courage. Every honest conversation strengthens trust. Every act of kindness strengthens hope. Every decision to live truthfully shapes the person I become. That is a journey worth continuing every single day. They gently closed the notebook. Outside, the stars continued shining. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New opportunities would arrive. New conversations would begin. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in many seasons, they no longer worried about hidden tests or proving themselves to others. They simply chose to live each day with honesty, gratitude, respect, and compassion, trusting that those quiet choices would become the strongest foundation any meaningful relationship could ever have. And listen to this. Several quiet mornings had passed since that life-changing realization. The sunrise still painted the sky with soft shades of gold, orange, and pink. The birds still welcomed another beautiful day with cheerful songs. Neighbors still smiled as they greeted one another. The neighborhood bakery still filled the streets with the comforting aroma of fresh bread. Children still laughed as they hurried toward school. Everything appeared exactly as it always had. Yet inside, everything had changed. Not because someone else had suddenly become different, but because one heart had finally chosen to stop living in fear. Because your heart needs this right now, because lasting transformation begins within long before it becomes visible to anyone else. That morning, they stood quietly beside the window holding a warm cup of tea. Instead of worrying about yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's uncertainties, they simply watched the morning unfold. The sunlight resting gently across the trees. The breeze moving softly through the leaves. A neighbor helping another carry heavy bags. A child laughing without pretending. Life suddenly felt slower. More meaningful. They realized they had spent years searching for extraordinary moments while overlooking the quiet beauty of ordinary days. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude often begins when we notice the blessings already surrounding us. After breakfast, they reached once again for the familiar notebook. The cover had become worn. The pages had become filled with reflections, prayers, hopes, mistakes, lessons, and promises. Turning through those pages reminded them that growth had never happened overnight. It happened one decision at a time. One honest conversation. One sincere apology. One act of forgiveness. One quiet moment of courage. Every page represented another step forward. Because your heart needs this right now, because real growth is built through faithful daily choices. Opening to a fresh page, they slowly wrote. Today I choose integrity again. Then another sentence appeared. Not because someone may be watching, but because honesty is becoming part of who I am. Reading those words filled them with unexpected peace. They realized integrity isn't something performed for recognition. It is something practiced consistently. Because your heart needs this right now, because character is shaped by what we repeatedly choose. Later that morning they returned to the familiar park. The old oak tree still stretched confidently toward the bright blue sky. Gentle breezes moved through its branches. The peaceful lake reflected drifting white clouds. Families gathered beneath shady trees. Children chased butterflies across colorful gardens. Everything invited stillness. They found the familiar wooden bench overlooking the lake and quietly sat down. There was no need to rush. No need to search endlessly for answers. For several peaceful minutes they simply listened. The birds. The breeze. The gentle ripples across the water. Silence no longer felt uncomfortable. It felt healing. Because your heart needs this right now, because peaceful hearts often grow during quiet moments. Nearby, an elderly woman patiently taught her granddaughter how to sew a small quilt. The little girl accidentally stitched one piece crooked. She frowned. I ruined it. The grandmother smiled kindly. No. You've added another lesson. Every careful stitch teaches your hands something new. Those words echoed deeply. Perhaps relationships were like quilts. They aren't made beautiful because every stitch is perfect. They're beautiful because love patiently holds imperfect pieces together. Because your heart needs this right now, because patience creates beauty where perfection never could. The morning slowly became afternoon. Walking beside the lake, they noticed a father helping his young son plant a tiny tree. After covering the roots with soil, the boy asked, "When will it become big?" His father smiled. "Not today. Not tomorrow. But if we care for it consistently, one day we'll sit beneath its shade." Those simple words settled gently into their heart. Trust grows the same way. Respect grows the same way. Friendship grows the same way. Love grows the same way. Small acts repeated consistently create lasting results. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful relationships are built patiently over time. Later they wandered into the flower garden. Rows of roses, lilies, daisies, and sunflowers bloomed beneath the afternoon sun. An elderly gardener carefully watered each flower. Curious, they asked, "Do you ever become tired of caring for them every day?" The gardener smiled warmly. If something is valuable, caring for it never becomes a burden. Those words stayed with them. Relationships require attention. Kindness requires intention. Honesty requires courage. Forgiveness requires humility. None of these things happen accidentally. Because your heart needs this right now, because healthy relationships flourish through consistent care. The afternoon breeze carried soft music from a nearby violinist. Only a few people paused to listen. Still, every note was played with remarkable care. Watching him reminded them that meaningful things do not lose value simply because few people notice them. Kindness matters. Integrity matters. Compassion matters. Even when no applause follows. Because your heart needs this right now, because doing what is right is valuable regardless of recognition. Returning once again to the wooden bench beneath the oak tree, they opened the notebook. Today's page quickly filled. Today I promise myself something. I will not allow fear to become stronger than truth. I will not allow pride to become stronger than humility. I will not allow silence to replace honest conversations. I will continue becoming someone worthy of trust. Reading those promises brought quiet confidence. Not because life had suddenly become easy, but because they finally understood the direction they wanted their life to follow. Because your heart needs this right now, because clear values guide wise decisions. As afternoon slowly became evening, golden sunlight reflected across the peaceful lake. Families folded picnic blankets. Children waved goodbye to new friends. Birds returned to their nests. Everything gradually became still. Standing beside the water, they reflected on the title of this story. Don't skip. Your soulmate secretly tested your honesty and broke down in tears when they found out. A gentle smile appeared. The greatest lesson had never been about another person's hidden test. It had been about life's quiet opportunities to reveal our true character. Every ordinary day invites us to choose honesty. Every conversation invites us to choose kindness. Every disagreement invites us to choose humility. Those quiet choices shape who we become. Because your heart needs this right now, because integrity is revealed through ordinary moments lived faithfully. As evening settled across the neighborhood, they returned home. The room felt peaceful. Outside, countless stars slowly appeared across the night sky. They opened the notebook one final time before bed. Across a fresh page they carefully wrote, "Tomorrow I will continue choosing honesty. Tomorrow I will continue choosing compassion. Tomorrow I will continue listening before judging. Tomorrow I will continue protecting trust through my actions. Tomorrow I will continue becoming the person I hope to be." Then they paused before writing one final reflection. "Today I discovered that the greatest reward for honesty is not praise from others. It is the quiet peace that comes from knowing my words and actions agree. Integrity becomes stronger every time I choose truth with kindness, patience with humility, and compassion with courage. Those small decisions shape every meaningful relationship and quietly change the course of a life." They gently closed the notebook. Outside, the stars continued shining. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New opportunities would come. New conversations would begin. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in many seasons, they no longer worried about proving themselves through dramatic moments. Instead, they chose to live each ordinary day with honesty, gratitude, patience, and love. Knowing those quiet choices would become the strongest foundation any lasting relationship could ever have. And listen to this. The final morning arrived with a peaceful stillness unlike any that had come before. The first rays of sunlight slipped gently through the curtains, bathing the room in warm shades of gold. A soft breeze drifted through the open window, carrying the fresh scent of rain and blooming flowers. Birds welcomed the dawn with cheerful songs. The neighborhood slowly came to life. A baker arranged warm bread in the display window. Neighbors greeted one another with friendly smiles. Children hurried toward school, laughing together. Everything looked wonderfully ordinary. Yet inside one heart, something extraordinary had finally happened. The fear that once whispered, "Hide your true feelings," had become quiet. The courage that whispered, "Live honestly," had become stronger. Not because life had suddenly become perfect. Not because every question had been answered. But because peace had replaced the constant need to prove anything to anyone. Because your heart needs this right now, because real confidence grows from living according to your values. That morning they prepared breakfast without rushing. The simple routine suddenly felt meaningful. The warmth of fresh tea. The sunlight stretching across the kitchen floor. The gentle sound of birds outside the window. For years they had searched for extraordinary signs that everything would work out. Now they realized something different. Peace rarely arrives through dramatic moments. It often arrives quietly when we begin appreciating the ordinary gifts already surrounding us. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude transforms ordinary days into extraordinary memories. After breakfast they reached for the familiar notebook one final time. Its cover had become worn. Its pages carried the story of an entire journey. The first pages contained uncertainty. The middle pages held difficult lessons. The final chapters overflowed with hope, gratitude, and quiet promises. Turning each page felt like meeting different versions of themselves. The fearful version. The impatient version. the discouraged version, the hopeful version, and finally, the peaceful version. They smiled gently. The notebook had never changed the future. It had simply recorded the steady transformation of one honest heart. Because your heart needs this right now, because personal growth is often life's greatest accomplishment. Only one blank page remained. They rested the pen gently against the paper. For several moments they simply listened to the quiet room. Then they slowly began writing. Today I understand something I once overlooked. Integrity is not a destination. It is a daily decision. Every conversation, every promise, every opportunity to choose honesty instead of convenience, shapes the person I become. Reading those words brought quiet peace. Not excitement. Not relief alone. A deeper confidence. The kind that comes from knowing who you truly want to be. Because your heart needs this right now, because lasting peace grows when our actions match our beliefs. Later that morning they returned to the familiar park. The old oak tree still stretched confidently toward the bright blue sky. Its branches danced gently beneath the breeze. Sunlight shimmered across the peaceful lake. Families gathered beneath the trees. Children laughed while chasing butterflies through blooming gardens. Everything invited reflection. They found the familiar wooden bench overlooking the lake and quietly sat down. There was no hurry. No pressure. Only gratitude. For several peaceful minutes they simply watched life. The gentle ripples across the water. The birds gliding overhead. The quiet rhythm of ordinary people living ordinary lives. They realized those ordinary moments often become the most meaningful memories. Because your heart needs this right now, because the happiest lives are often built through simple moments appreciated fully. Nearby, an elderly carpenter carefully restored an old wooden bridge crossing a small stream. A young child watched with curiosity. "Why don't you build a new one?" the child asked. The carpenter smiled kindly. "Because this bridge still has a strong foundation. It only needs patient hands." Those words echoed deeply. Relationships often work the same way. Misunderstandings may create cracks. Mistakes may leave scars. Time may create distance. Yet patience, honesty, forgiveness, and consistent kindness can strengthen what once seemed fragile. Because your heart needs this right now, because restoration often begins with one sincere decision to keep caring. The afternoon quietly unfolded. Golden sunlight reflected across the lake. A father patiently taught his young daughter how to ride a bicycle. Each time she lost balance, he encouraged her. He never mocked her mistakes. He celebrated every attempt. Watching them reminded them that encouragement builds confidence. The healthiest relationships become places where people feel safe enough to grow. Because your heart needs this right now, because people flourish where they feel respected, encouraged, and understood. Later they wandered toward the peaceful flower garden. Rows of roses, lilies, daisies, and sunflowers bloomed beneath the afternoon sun. An elderly gardener carefully watered each flower. Curious, they asked, "Do you ever become tired of caring for them every day?" The gardener smiled warmly. When something is valuable, caring for it becomes a privilege. Those simple words stayed with them. Trust deserves attention. Friendship deserves attention. Family deserves attention. Love deserves attention. Healthy relationships never thrive by accident. They flourish because someone continues choosing kindness. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful relationships grow through faithful daily care. Returning to the bench one final time, they opened the notebook to its last page. Slowly they wrote, "Today I release the need to prove myself. I release fear. I release unnecessary worry. Instead, I choose honesty. I choose compassion. I choose patience. I choose humility. I choose gratitude. I choose hope." Reading those simple sentences brought tears to their eyes. Not tears of sadness, but tears of relief. They finally understood that the greatest reward for living honestly isn't praise from other people. It's the quiet peace of knowing your heart is free from pretense. Because your heart needs this right now, because integrity brings a kind of peace that cannot be purchased. As afternoon slowly became evening, the golden sunset painted the sky with brilliant shades of orange, pink, violet, and gold. Families packed picnic blankets. Children waved goodbye to new friends. Birds returned to their nests. Everything gradually became still. Standing beside the peaceful lake, they reflected on the title of this story. Don't skip. Your soulmate secretly tested your honesty and broke down in tears when they found out. A gentle smile crossed their face. The greatest lesson had never been about another person's secret test. Life itself had quietly offered opportunities to reveal character. Every ordinary day had asked the same question. Will you choose honesty? Will you choose kindness? Will you choose humility? Will you choose forgiveness? Those choices quietly shaped the person they were becoming. Because your heart needs this right now, because true character is revealed through ordinary moments lived with integrity. That evening they returned home. The room felt wonderfully peaceful. Outside, countless stars slowly appeared across the night sky. The notebook rested quietly on the table. Opening it one final time, they carefully wrote, "If this journey has taught me anything, it is this. Never believe that honesty is weakness. It is strength. Never believe that kindness goes unnoticed. Its influence reaches farther than we imagine. Never believe that forgiveness erases wisdom. It allows wisdom to grow without bitterness. Never underestimate the power of one sincere conversation. It can begin healing that silence never could." They paused before writing one final reflection. Whether tomorrow brings restored friendships, new opportunities, difficult conversations, or simply another peaceful sunrise, I choose to live with honesty, compassion, humility, gratitude, and hope. Those values will continue guiding every decision I make. They may not guarantee an easy life, but they will help me build meaningful relationships rooted in trust and respect. They gently closed the notebook. The journey had reached its final page. Outside, the stars continued shining. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New opportunities would come. New conversations would begin. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in a very long while, they no longer feared what tomorrow might bring. Because they had discovered the greatest truth of all. The strongest relationships are never built through secret tests, dramatic surprises, or perfect moments. They are built through countless ordinary choices. Choosing honesty when it would be easier to hide. Choosing kindness when frustration feels easier. Choosing forgiveness instead of resentment. Choosing gratitude instead of taking people for granted. Choosing humility instead of pride. Those quiet choices become the strongest foundation any lasting relationship could ever have. The room became still. The stars filled the sky. With a peaceful smile, they turned off the light, knowing the next chapter of their life would not be written by fear, but by integrity, hope, compassion, and truth.